Today's tech news moves fast, but understanding it shouldn't be hard. That's why Snarful Solutions Group brings you Connecting the Dots, where we break down what's happening in tech and why it matters to you. Now, let's dive in with your hosts.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Monday, May 5th, 2025, coming to you from sunny Sacramento.
Looks like a nice day out there.
Yeah, mostly clear skies, high hitting about 89 degrees. But do keep in mind there's a wind advisory in effect until 8:00 p.m. tonight.
Good to know.
And a quick look at the markets before we jump in. The Dow Jones closed last Friday, May 2nd, at 41,317.43.
Okay.
And the S&P 500 ended the week at 5,686.67.
Got it.
Welcome back to Connecting the Dots. I'm one of your hosts here from Snarful Solutions Group right here in Sacramento.
And I'm here to help connect those dots looking at the tech news that matter.
Exactly. Our goal, as always, is to explore the relevant tech stories and, figure out how they actually impact our everyday lives. Today, we've got three big ones lined up for our deep dive.
Yeah, it's quite a mix today. We're looking at a pretty serious data breach involving government communications, the shutdown of a notorious deepfake site,
right?
And a major crypto player moving into artificial intelligence. Pretty interesting stuff.
Definitely covers a lot of ground. So let's start with that first one, the data breach. It involves a company called Telemessage.
Right, Telemessage. They're an Israeli company, and maybe not a household name, but they do something quite specific. They provide modified versions of popular secure messaging apps.
Apps like Signal, WhatsApp, Telegram. The ones people generally think are pretty locked down.
Exactly. Those apps, but with a twist. Telemessage adds message archiving capabilities.
Why would they do that? Doesn't that sort of defeat the purpose of end-to-end encryption?
Well, for certain organizations like government agencies or financial institutions, there are often legal or regulatory requirements to keep records of communications. So Telemessage offers this as a compliance solution.
Okay, I see. So it's for record keeping, but It sounds like that added feature might have created a problem here.
That's precisely the issue. A hacker apparently gained access to Telemessage's systems and got hold of customer data. We're talking direct messages, group chats.
Wow, and whose data are we talking about?
Well, the reports mention some pretty high-profile examples. Chats involving Representative Mike Waltz, apparently including communications with Senators Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, and also Tulsi Gabbard.
So potentially very sensitive political communication.
Potentially, yes. And it wasn't just political figures. The breach also seems to have impacted data related to Customs and Border Protection, CBP.
Okay.
And interestingly, the cryptocurrency giant Coinbase was mentioned, along with other financial institutions. Scotiabank apparently showed up in a screenshot related to the breach.
So it's a broad range, government, crypto, traditional finance. That's concerning.
It really is. And what makes it maybe even more worrying is what the hacker allegedly said about getting in.
Oh, what did they say?
They claimed it only took them about 15 to 20 minutes.
15 minutes? Seriously?
Yeah, and they reportedly said it wasn't much effort at all.
That really punches a hole in the idea that adding this archiving layer was, secure.
It absolutely highlights the inherent tension, doesn't it? You have end-to-end encryption designed for privacy, meaning only the sender and receiver can read it. Then you add this central archiving point for compliance.
And suddenly you've created a target, a single point of failure almost.
Exactly. Even if the intent is just record keeping, it introduces a new vulnerability. Now, it's noted that maybe not all messages were accessed, but the hacker's comments suggest wider access was definitely possible.
It really makes you question that trade-off between compliance and security, especially for sensitive stuff.
Definitely. And this telemessage incident, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It feels like part of this constant barrage of cyber threats we're seeing.
Yeah, it seems like every week there's something new.
Right. Like the source material we reviewed also mentioned that scam network run by Darkula using fake texts, really sophisticated fake websites.
The Magic Cat software, yeah. Imitating sites in like 130 countries. That's wild.
It's incredibly sophisticated, targeting credit cards globally. Then you have attacks like the one on the UK supermarket co-op.
Dragonforce claimed that one, right? And M&S is still recovering from something similar.
Seems so, yeah. Significant impacts. And then there's the political angle, too, like that pro-Russian group, No Name 057, hitting Romanian government sites on their election day.
Just straight up disruption.
And ransomware continues to be a huge problem. The U.S. indicted someone allegedly behind the Black Kingdom ransomware that hit Microsoft Exchange users.
It's coming from all sides. Financial scams, political motives, pure extortion with ransomware.
It is. And then you see debates about how to respond, like the discussion around proposed budget changes for CISA in the U.S., focusing maybe more on federal networks, less on things like disinformation programs.
It's always a question of where to put the resources, isn't it?
It is. And big tech faces scrutiny, too. Look at TikTok getting that big EU fine over data protection and potential access from China.
Right, the whole data sovereignty issue.
Exactly. And just to round it out, we saw Cobb County government hit by ransomware, the Raw app exposing user locations because, well, they didn't encrypt properly despite saying they did.
Oh, boy.
Even major X accounts like the New York Post and Tron DAO getting hijacked for crypto scams.
It's relentless.
It really is. Though on the flip side, you see investment flowing into cybersecurity startups like Doppel and Minimus, so people are definitely trying to build better defenses. And specific warnings, too, like the one about ransomware targeting the food and ag industry.
So tying it back to telemessage, if officials using these supposedly secure archive systems can get breached that easily.
Well, it's a stark reminder for all of us, isn't it? Our everyday digital communications, the apps we use, where our data goes, none of it is foolproof. It really hammers home the need to be, aware of the risks.
Absolutely. Makes you think twice. Okay, let's shift gears to our second big story. This one involves a website called Mr. Deepfakes.
Yeah, Mr. Deepfakes. For a long time, this was probably the biggest, most notorious hub online for non-consensual deepfake pornography.
Just awful stuff. Using AI to put people's faces, usually women, onto explicit content without their permission.
Exactly. It became the central place for this kind of material after other platforms, thankfully, started banning it.
And now it's gone. What happened?
It seems so. The site itself posted a message saying they're shutting down permanently. Apparently, a key service provider, as someone hosting them or providing essential infrastructure, terminated their service.
So it wasn't law enforcement that took them down directly.
Not according to their statement. It was a service provider pulling the plug, which apparently also led to data loss, making it impossible for them to continue. They're also warning people not to fall for any copycat sites claiming to be them.
Interesting, there was an infrastructure provider. That shows the power those companies have, doesn't it?
It really does highlight a different kind of pressure point in tackling harmful online content.
And the impact of this site. It must have been devastating for the victims.
Immense. Millions of visitors, apparently. And it wasn't just hosting the videos. The forums on the site were reportedly a place where people actively developed the technology, shared tools, shared methods for making these fakes better, more convincing.
So it was actively contributing to the problem getting worse.
Very much so. And while the operator was largely anonymous, there were reports suggesting they'd been identified and had possibly made quite a bit of money from it.
Ugh. And for the victims, like Scarlett Johansson, who's spoken out about this, it's impossible to just make these images disappear once they're out there.
That's the heartbreaking reality. Once it's online, it spreads. Which is why experts like Henny Farid at UC Berkeley, while calling the shutdown an important victory, also said it was, far too little and far too long in the making.
Yeah, I can see that point. Took too long.
And Farid really emphasized that tech companies need to take more responsibility here, be more proactive.
Because even though this one big site is gone, the technology hasn't disappeared, right?
Not at all. The AI tools are still out there, often freely available. And the communities that create and share this stuff, they just migrate. We're seeing activity move to platforms like Telegram, other forums.
So closing one door doesn't solve the underlying issue.
Unfortunately, no. It's a step, an important one perhaps, but the fight isn't over.
And for you listening. This really brings home the dark side of AI, doesn't it? The potential for misuse, the violation of privacy and identity.
Absolutely. It underscores why there's a push for laws.
Right.
The U.S. Congress passed a bill targeting this kind of non-consensual material, and there are similar efforts in the U.K., the EU.
But it's clearly an ongoing battle against technology being used in such a harmful way.
Definitely needs continued vigilance and probably stronger enforcement and maybe new regulations too.
Okay, a difficult but important topic. Let's move to our third story, which shifts gears again into the world of cryptocurrency and AI. Tether is making moves.
Yeah, Tether. Most people know them for their stablecoin, USDT, which is pegged to the US dollar. Huge player in the crypto space. Now they've announced Tether AI.
Tether AI. So they're jumping into artificial intelligence. What exactly is Tether AI?
They're describing it as an open source AI runtime, basically a platform for developing and deploying AI agents, but specifically designed to run on a decentralized infrastructure.
Okay, decentralized infrastructure. Let's break that down. What does that mean in practice?
Well, they're pushing this concept called personal infinite intelligence. The idea is to have AI models that are modular, kind of like building blocks, and can run on different types of hardware. Crucially, they want to do this without needing centralized authentication. So no API keys managed by one company.
Okay. So not tied to a single big cloud provider's authentication system.
Right. And also designed to avoid a single point of failure. Think more like a distributed network, making it potentially more resilient, maybe more secure, less prone to censorship, perhaps.
More peer-to-peer, kind of like how crypto often works.
Exactly. And speaking of crypto, a really key feature here is the integration of payments. Tether AI is being built with support for USDT and Bitcoin payments baked right in using their development kit.
So AI applications built on this platform could easily transact using crypto.
That's the idea, enabling seamless crypto transactions for what they call dApps, decentralized AI applications. Their big vision, they say, is creating an unstoppable peer-to-peer network of billions of AI agents.
Billions? That's ambitious.
Very ambitious. It signals a strong belief in a future where AI is much more distributed.
And it looks like they're connecting this to their other projects. The Tether.ai website redirects somewhere else now.
Yeah, it points to Tether Data, which seems to be their umbrella for these P2P and data initiatives. It likely integrates with things they already have, like Keet and Pair, which are peer-to-peer communication tools.
And hadn't Tether Data already mentioned working on some specific AI tools?
They had. They talked about developing an AI translator, an AI voice assistant, and even an AI assistant for managing Bitcoin wallets. So Tether AI looks like the foundational layer, the runtime, for powering those kinds of decentralized services.
Makes sense. And they're putting money into the hardware side too, right? That Northern Data Group investment.
Correct. Investing in high-performance computing infrastructure shows they're serious about having the horsepower needed for AI development and deployment.
And sort of related, but also separate, they're planning a U.S.-focused stablecoin, aiming at competing with PayPal or Cash App.
Yeah, that was another interesting tidbit in the reporting. Planning a new stablecoin for maybe late this year or early 2026, specifically targeting U.S. institutions, aiming to be a payment product, shows they have broader fintech ambitions beyond just the current crypto sphere.
So thinking about Tether AI and this whole decentralized approach, what could this mean for, everyday people down the line?
Well, it could lead to some really interesting changes. Imagine AI services where you, the user, have more control, maybe more privacy, because your data isn't all sitting on one company's servers and you're not relying on their specific authentication.
Okay, so potentially more user autonomy.
Potentially. And the integrated crypto payments could open up new models for how we pay for or earn from AI services within these decentralized networks. It really points towards this growing intersection of blockchain and AI.
Yeah, two massive technologies starting to merge in potentially powerful ways.
It could change how we interact with AI, making it maybe more integrated into peer-to-peer systems, potentially offering different kinds of security and control than we have with today's largely centralized AI models.
Definitely something to watch. Okay, so let's do a quick wrap-up of what we covered in this deep dive.
Sounds good.
First, we looked at that telemessage data breach. A real wake-up call about how adding features like archiving, even to secure apps, can create significant vulnerabilities, especially when sensitive communications are involved.
Right. Then we discussed the shutdown of Mr. Deepfakes. A positive step against non-consensual deepfake porn, for sure, but also a reminder that the underlying technology and the problem itself persist elsewhere.
Absolutely. And finally, Tether's AI. Tether's big jump into decentralized artificial intelligence, aiming to build this peer-to-peer network of AI agents with crypto payments built right in. A glimpse, maybe, into a different future for AI.
Yeah, 3 stories that really touch on major themes.
Yeah.
The constant cybersecurity battle, the ethical challenges of new tech like deepfakes, and the potentially transformative convergence of AI and blockchain.
It definitely gives you, our listeners, a lot to think about as we all try to make sense of this rapidly changing tech world.
Indeed, and maybe a final thought to leave you with. As these powerful technologies like AI and blockchain continue to evolve and intertwine, what values or principles do you think are most crucial for us to prioritize to ensure they develop in a way that's actually beneficial and ethical for everyone?
Something to chew on. Remember, we're here to help here at Snarful, so reach out on our website if you have any more questions.
That's a wrap on today's top stories. Remember, tech doesn't have to be complicated, and we're here to help connect the dots. If you've got questions or want to learn more, visit us at snarful.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.